The Black Knight.
Savior of Gotham.
No, that's the Dark Knight.
Right.
So recently, Kalon and I saw a commercial funded by Pepsi, among a few other things, about the Black Knight satellite. And this guy receiving and decoding this radio message coming from the Black Knight satellite. Now,
you can't even really call it a commercial because it's a 10-minute long production and they don't mention Pepsi at all until the very end. So it's not like they're really trying to sell you something. It's like they're trying to make a very compressed sci-fi movie about the Black Knight satellite. It's odd.
That's right. It is odd. So it struck us as odd, and I've heard a little bit about the Black Knight satellite before, but I've never really looked into it. So we did a little bit of research, very little, mind you. This was at work, so looked into the Black Knight satellite. So lots of different people say lots of different things. I read that it was first discovered by Nikola Tesla in 1899, and then later rediscovered by a multitude of people, and in the 50s and 60s, it caused a lot of alarm, and the U.S. and Russia were kind of blaming each other over whose satellite it was. I've heard lots of hearsay about, it's a 13,000-year-old alien satellite from, I can't remember, it's like Epsilon Boot or something, star cluster or galaxy. I don't know about that either, but that's kind of the background information we've heard about it. It's mysterious. It has a polar orbit. Is a retroactive orbit or a
didn't you say a geosynchronous orbit?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe not. I read later it was retrograde or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know.
Sure.
I'm not really sure what that means, as I'm not a scientist. But the Black Knight is interesting.
So it's interesting because, Nikola Tesla found it, and so that must have been, a very long time ago, and he found it with a very large radio antenna that he was playing with. So whether he was bouncing some signals off of it and picked it up that way, or he picked up actual signals that were being emitted from this satellite, that would be a lot more interesting. If it is emitting its own signal, which has been rumored, that would imply that there is some intelligence involved. It's not just a rock or whatever.
Well, and I was reading
Since
that
no one's laid claim to it, whose is it?
Yeah.
Ancient builder race?
I was reading that, they were actually able to track it with radar. There are photographs of it taken by Gunner. I really should have a fact sheet in front of me. Instead, I chose to put Sci-Fi Toys.
We know sci-fi.
Yeah. So, there have been photographs of it. There's stuff on NASA's website that shows purportedly the Black Knight. Now, when I was digging around on Wikipedia, the official explanation is that it's actually some kind of a thermal blanket from the ISS or a space shuttle that's just kind of taken that shape in space, and that's what people are seeing. Looking at the video...
Sounds like a swamp gas kind of theory.
Yeah. Looking at the video of it, it was pretty massive. You'd have to have a blanket about the size of, I would say, a cruise ship. The just looking at the distance and the space shuttle passing over it, we'll put a link.
And an interesting thing about the video is at the very beginning of the video they mentioned that it was found by Nikola Tesla and that it is real. Like they say that in text. This is real.
Yeah, in the Pepsi production. Yeah.
It's interesting that they bring this up at this point in time and just like right in your face at the beginning. Yeah. This is real.
Seemingly
pay attention.
Randomly too, and it just struck us as odd. And why would Pepsi fund such a venture? I can't figure out why. Let's
go through towards the end of the video. Like, I guess the Black Knight, there's a guy that's working to decode this broadcast, and he decodes it in it's an alien message that says, "We've been watching you, and like, if you guys are good, then we'll give you a present," or something like that. So then all of the humans get together and they start doing peaceful stuff, and they basically make all these like landing strips or art that you can see from space on the ground. So everybody's getting together and making all these patterns on the ground. They're making peace signs and other random symbolism. Yeah, they made a peace sign in like what looked like a desert, so it's symbolizing maybe peace in the Middle East.
And the reason they're doing this is because it's in that polar orbit. It kind of matches what an observation satellite would do, because you can get a pretty good picture of what's going on if you're doing the polar orbit.
Right.
Better than, I guess, if you were doing the equatorial orbit? I don't know what you would call that. Again, I'm not a scientist.
It sounds right, though.
I just have a beard and glasses.
And some common sense.
And, no, not a lot of that. But, so... I guess the meaning behind that is that this satellite is looking at these images and wants us to recognize or have found it and start trying to communicate with it, because it says something about doing something by the next full moon,
right?
Which I'm not really sure how the aliens would detect that it's the next full moon, or why that would matter. But people start doing all these images, and then, it gets sent away, and I guess...
Interesting perspective, because it is all about perspective, whether it's a full moon or not. So, does the Black Knight then... Black Knight? Is it? What is it?
Black Knight. The Black Knight. And
actually, Black Knight satellite, does it have agents on the ground that are looking at the moon to see if it's full moon or not? Huh? That's what they're implying there with what they said.
Possibly. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit here. I probably should have said this earlier. The Black Knight, I read, the reason it's called the Black Knight, it's not because it looks like a Black Knight or anything like that, but there was a British satellite mission that I think failed, and its codename was Black Knight, and that's where this thing gets its namesake from, because originally they confused it with it, and I think the Americans and Russians thought it was the British satellite, but the British said no, we messed up, and I don't know, lost it in the Thames or something.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it got its name. But also it implies, the whole production implies that there is a massive cover-up, and there is an element, possibly government or military, that wants to shut people up. And there's his female companion calls him on the phone and says, "Listen, man, you're posting stuff. They're going to be coming after you." And sure enough, you get a shot of like these Navy SEALs or something like that coming in, and they got guns blazing. They kick open his door, but he's already left, and he's gone to see this girl with his kid. And then they build a fireworks display, which I didn't really...
After they've decoded the message, and they hear that it's a peaceful message. And
they're like, I gotta build a fireworks thing on the roof for these aliens. Not really sure how that helps or why he did that. I don't know if the...
Peaceful display?
I guess they're aliens, right? So their satellite imaging technology might be able to actually see in the window right now. And they could be like, damn it, Mac and Kalon are onto us. After watching the Pepsi production.
They know that we're just messing with them.
That's right, yeah. So, yes, we have this Black Knight, which may or may not be real. I just want to point that out.
Pepsi says it's real.
Pepsi says it's real. I don't know if that's official. There are labels on this thing that kind of says it's real. So I wonder how Pepsi actually feels about that.
Well, I like Pepsi, so I say it's real.
All right, I like Pepsi too, but I'm diabetic and I can't drink it anymore. So sorry, Pepsi.
Sad music.
Yeah, so.
I'm too sad to continue.
All right, so we're too sad to continue. So if you haven't seen the video, check it out. We're going to put the links for it in the comments section. Tell us what you think, what this thing is. You know, is it real? Is it a solar blanket off of the International Space Station that's just somehow been blown out into space, just like, you know, NASA says? Or is it some kind of alien satellite that's watching us?
I'm leaning towards the alien spy satellite.
You know what? I actually am too. I'm usually a bit more skeptical on stuff like this, but I saw some pretty convincing pictures and footage, not only in the Pepsi thing, but on other videos I found on YouTube and in the Wikipedia stuff. Now, the Wikipedia page takes a stance that it's a big fake hoax. So if you're not into hearing that stuff, maybe avoid the Wikipedia page, because every single paragraph is it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. So you know, it's your decision what you believe, but we seem to believe that there is something kind of alien about that, or at least I hope there is.
Well, I've been following the work of David Wilcock and the insider Corey Good, and he claims that the solar system is just littered with ancient builder technology and relics and all kinds of structures. So it wouldn't surprise me if those guys are right. Then it wouldn't surprise me if this Black Knight is just more ancient builder technology.
Yeah, and that's some pretty interesting stuff, which we'll get into in our next episode. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Remember to add comments, subscribe, tell us what you think, and thanks for watching.